This is CBC Vancouver News.
A large machinery fire briefly shut down operations at Delta Port in Tsawwassen, sending large plumes of black smoke high into the air. And
I mean, he's a survivor. He had AIDS for 40 years and maintained his healthy attitude by being creative.
anything but average. That's how friends and family are remembering beloved Vancouver artist and activist Joe Average as tributes continue to pour in following his death. Also,
illegal dumping is a big issue in the city of Vancouver, just as it is in every municipality.
Illegal dumping is concerning for us. It impacts the environment.
illegal dumping continues to plague cities in BC, how the province's two largest municipalities are trying to curb it. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. We begin with breaking news. The death toll in what is being called one of South Korea's worst aviation disasters continues to rise after a passenger plane veered off the runway and erupted into flames as it slammed into a barrier. And a warning, some of the images may be disturbing for some viewers. 181 passengers were on board the plane when its front landing gear apparently failed to deploy. The incident happened at the Muon International Airport, about 290 kilometers south of Seoul. South Korea's National Fire Agency says at least 85 people have died in the fire. And near Tsawwassen, a massive blaze caught the attention of many people this morning after a conveyor belt at Canada's largest coal export terminal became engulfed in flames. The Vancouver Fraser Port Authority says a coal stacker caught fire at a facility operated by West Shore Terminals, briefly shutting down operations at Delta Port. Witnesses tell CBC News huge black plumes of smoke could be seen from miles away. Fire crews were able to extinguish the flames quickly, preventing the spread to further equipment. The cause of the blaze and the extent of damage is unknown. No one was injured. Tributes continue to pour in for Joe Average. The beloved Vancouver artist and advocate for people living with HIV died on Christmas Eve, just months after he was appointed to the Order of Canada. Our Michelle Morton has more on his life and legacy.
Joe Average's longtime friend sharing this special memory on Facebook when the two were on their way to Ottawa. The artist being honored with the Order of Canada earlier this month.
He called me straight away and he said, "Look, you were there at the beginning, so do you want to come?" So we had a riot.
After being diagnosed with AIDS when he was 27 and told he may only have months to live, Average, born Brock David Tebbett, decided to pursue his love of art professionally. Since then, his bright and bold pieces have touched the world. He was also a devoted advocate for HIV/AIDS awareness and 2 SLGBTQ+ rights, and donated his artwork frequently to charitable causes.
He's a survivor. He had AIDS for 40 years and maintained his healthy attitude by being creative.
One of Average's first pieces of art hanging inside his Vancouver home.
My mom's writing in 1961 November, so it was Halloween.
Where his sister says he was an artist at a young age, and she is so proud of him today.
He first did shows. He did shows in his apartment and colored on paper with pastels, and they were tiny and just... Then I've been to shows where everything sells out in the first night. Now he does mostly prints, and like they're big, they're colorful, they're wonderful. They just make people smile. And that's what he wanted.
She says Average passed away on Christmas Eve at the age of 67. Tributes are pouring in online with people, some who have never met him, sharing gratitude for his art, advocacy work, and contributions.
I've known Joe for a long time, and he was so instrumental in telling people about HIV and the impact it had in people's lives, and of course how important a loving spoonful was to provide meals and nutritional support to those folks.
Average's friends and family hope people will continue to remember him for his kindness. Michelle Morton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Garbage dumped at the side of the road or tucked away in green spaces in an attempt to hide it. This is illegal dumping. It continues to plague cities in BC. It's bad for the environment, public health and safety, and it also affects community pride. Chad Pawson has more on how the province's two largest cities are trying to curb it.
Garbage and waste dumped in out-of-the-way places like here in Vancouver is not just unsightly, but it's illegal. Cities are spending millions of dollars to deal with it and hopefully try to prevent it.
Illegal dumping is a big issue in the city of Vancouver, just as it is in every municipality.
Illegal dumping is concerning for us. It impacts the environment. It creates an untidy appearance within municipalities, and it's costly.
Officials in BC's two largest cities say it's a scramble to keep up with all kinds of waste being dumped.
You'll see construction and demolition waste in secluded areas of the city where it's out of sight, out of mind. It's dark, but there's couches couches that are dumped as well in front of homes.
We have small household items, there's large appliances. These items can be recycled for free at the Vancouver transfer station, Zero Waste Centre.
On average, the city of Vancouver responds to 1,500 requests a month to clean up illegal dumping at a cost of up to $3 million a year. Meanwhile, Surrey collected more than 3,000 dumped items over a 4-week cleanup blitz this year alone. Officials say illegal dumping happens because either residents are confused over how to dispose of items or want to avoid paying fees at landfills.
There's also a perceived high cost of disposal, but the reality is a couch simply costs $15 to $20 to dispose of at a facility like this.
Cities are working hard to promote waste diversion centers and free pop-up events to have residents dispose of items properly. Surrey even offers a service to come pick up large items, again for free.
The program is really simple. They call the city's waste collection hotline, book an appointment, and we'll come to your home and we'll pick up the material that you want disposed of.
Choosing instead to dump illegally is risky. Cities actively investigate cases. Surrey's been using surveillance cameras since 2019 to try and help catch illegal dumpers. It's resulted in 40 tickets worth $1,000 each. In Vancouver, violators can face fines up to $10,000.
Yes, we want to ensure that people are being held accountable. We do have one case actually right now that's before the courts.
Officials hope the message is getting through. Surrey has a goal to reduce illegal dumping by 20% by 2026. They want residents to make the extra effort to put waste in its place rather than dumping it where it is rarely out of sight and not out of mind for the people who care. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Mounties in Chilliwack say up to 25 guns and a significant amount of currency was stolen from a home that was ransacked over the holidays. RCMP say several items went missing from a home near Chilliwack Lake Road sometime between Christmas Day and Friday. More than 24 firearms, most of them long guns, were taken, as well as a significant amount of Vietnamese currency. Investigators are warning currency exchange businesses to be on the lookout for people trying to convert large amounts of Vietnamese dong into other currencies. Police are also looking for 2 vehicles that may have been involved, a small white vehicle and a Ford diesel pickup truck. Anyone with information is asked to contact them. 2 cable ferries that cross Kootenay River will now be operating on a reduced schedule starting Monday. The BC Labour Relations Board has agreed with a request made by the BC General Employees Union to reduce 2 cable ferry crossings during the ongoing job action between the union and employer Great West Marine. In mid-December, the union applied to the Labour Board to include these crossings in its strike action. The board decided that instead of no sailings, the ferries will also have to run on demand for essential services like medical appointments and for students and emergency vehicles. The Labour Board says its decision is a middle ground that serves the union's purpose of putting pressure on its employer while meeting the needs of residents. Sales have slowed down for small businesses in Nanaimo's downtown core, with the area at a crucial turning point. But as Claire Palmer reports, despite the setbacks, some owners are feeling cautiously optimistic about the neighborhood's long-term viability.
This is Nanaimo's historic downtown. Holiday lights, a glistening Christmas tree, and posters for New Year's parties. Usually vibrant and full of shoppers through December, but this year a little quieter, according to one shop owner.
You know, the spend per customer is down overall. I mean, people are just tight for money. They're just not spending extra.
Javietsky owns the menswear store NYLA Fresh Threads, an anchor in the downtown. After 10 years of business, he's closing the store in the new year. Despite the setback, he says he still believes in Nanaimo's downtown.
Yeah, it's vibrant. You know, we have some really great businesses down here. You know, it's been, growing over the years, and people really love what we're doing down here. We have some really great cafes, locally owned and operated, some really great retail, again, locally owned and operated. And it makes it a little bit more special when you're shopping local.
A few steps away is Red Shelf Decor, owned by Stephen Johns, who's a part of the Downtown Business Association. He says he moved to this location 6 years ago because he wanted to be right here. And while he's noticed fewer people downtown this season, loyalists are still coming.
The main thing is the people who come downtown would come downtown in torrential weather, in good weather, in construction, no construction. The people who support us down here are amazing.
And those loyalists do have to contend with this. The neighborhood is being upgraded, diverting cars and people elsewhere. The city calls this downtown reimagined to fix infrastructure, accessibility, and make it a place to host events.
People still see Commercial Street and downtown in general as the heart of the city, and people really love the events like night market and things like that, where we have car-free days and festivals in general. So there's a real desire from the community to enhance downtown. And
John says it's just growing pains.
I think in the next 10 years, downtown will become a big shining point of Nanaimo, and it has been in the past, and I think it's just on the verge of being sort of a focal point of Nanaimo and a bragging right for Nanaimo after we've done this revitalization.
Javietsky says he believes in the downtown core, and right next door to NYLA plans on opening a new coffee shop and social house.
In the construction, it is interrupting some of the, the flow down here, but that's a short-term problem. For us, long-term, we're really excited about the finished product.
Construction should end by May, and city is hoping the project will pay off with a busy summer. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
With binoculars in hand, bird watchers from across North America came together today for the annual Christmas bird count. As Sohrab Sandhu reports, the aim of the game is to not only spot different birds, but also contribute to science.
Christina Bright and Braden Hallam are walking the trails of Mud Bay Park in Surrey, looking for different birds.
So this was our checklist today of the 32 species that we actually came across.
The species that we see here, especially at Mud Bay Park, are obviously coastal species. Very regular seen are harriers and eagles in terms of raptors.
The two are avid bird watchers and volunteers with the annual Christmas bird count, a tradition for many that spans more than a century.
We are counting today here in Surrey, then south of us in White Rock. We have actually a little portion in Washington across the border. There are people counting today in Blaine. And then we go all the way out to Langley.
The Christmas bird count started in 1900 and is put on by volunteers each year. Organizers say it's aimed at monitoring the local bird population and to gain insight into the health of the ecosystem. Trent Leslie came from Washington State. He says he grew up bird watching with his father.
I got my life for evening grosbeak today. Almost flew into Libby's face. It put on quite a show. So that was my highlight of the day.
And whether you are a long-time bird watcher or new to the hobby, anyone can participate.
This is a citizen science, effort that's gone on now for 125 years.
After the data is compiled, it's published on Birds Canada website.
Any amateur can use it by going to the website and doing a query on a species and maybe seeing over the last 100 years how its numbers have varied. as people have counted them.
If you look back 20 years ago, there were no Anna's hummingbirds in the winter here, and now they are regularly seen on our bird counts.
Last year, 293 different bird species were reported in Canada. That's 14 species more than the previous season. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Surrey.
Coming up, an Israeli raid on a hospital in northern Gaza ends with hundreds of people detained, including medics and the hospital's director. We'll have the latest after the break. Russia's president has apologized to his Azerbaijani counterpart after this week's deadly plane crash. Vladimir Putin called it a tragic incident, but stopped short of saying Russia was responsible. Itha Musil has more.
In Azerbaijan's capital, Baku, a funeral for a 13-year-old boy who died in Wednesday's plane crash that killed 37 others. 29 survived, yet today, the loss is still painfully difficult for some to accept. Just look at the damage. How many people's homes were filled with mourning just before the new year? Can such a thing happen, asks this woman. I believe that Russia must apologize to the people of Azerbaijan and provide compensation to the deceased and the survivors, says this man. Russia's President Vladimir Putin did apologize on Saturday to Azerbaijan's president for what he called a tragic incident in Russian airspace. He stopped short, however, of admitting responsibility for the deadly crash. It comes amid mounting allegations the plane was shot down by Russian air defenses, attempting to deflect Ukrainian drone strikes. I myself was injured in my arm, says this flight attendant of the crashed plane. One passenger was also injured in the leg. There were people who panicked, and we tried to calm them down. The Kremlin says its air defense systems were firing near Grozny airport as the plane repeatedly tried to land, but it did not explicitly say the plane was hit by Russia. The flight was en route from Azerbaijan's capital to Grozny in southern Russia, but it diverted to Kazakhstan, where it crashed and burst into flames. Now, while officials from Russia, Azerbaijan, and Kazakhstan continue to investigate the crash, the families of the victims continue to mourn their passing. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Officials in Gaza say an Israeli raid on a hospital in the north has ended with 240 people detained, dozens of the medics and the patients transported to other facilities. Patients reported long waits in the cold. Officials say they're also hearing the hospital's director was beaten. Yesterday, Israel said Hamas had used the hospital as a command post throughout the conflict. Hamas calls that a lie. It was the last major health facility in Gaza's north still functioning. An investigation is underway into a fatal beating by correctional officers at a prison in a New York prison. Newly released body camera video shows several officers hitting and kicking inmate Robert Brooks, who was handcuffed prior to his death. CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick has this story and a warning: some of the details of this story may be disturbing.
Robert Brooks was a 43-year-old prison inmate whose life came to a sudden end on December 10th. He died soon after an altercation with guards at Marcy Correctional Facility, where he had just been transferred from another institution. New York's Attorney General Letitia James is among the authorities who are investigating what happened. On Friday, she released body camera footage from 4 corrections officers involved in the incident. There's no audio on the tape. She called the images shocking and disturbing.
But as Attorney General, I release these videos because I have a responsibility and duty to provide the Brooks family, their loved ones, and all New Yorkers with transparency and accountability.
CBC is showing limited images from the footage, which some viewers may find hard to watch. Brooks is in a medical room, his arms restrained behind his back with handcuffs. At various points in the video, he is punched, kicked, struck with a shoe, and an officer has a firm grasp on his neck. Brooks has blood on his face, his body is limp, and eventually he's seen lying motionless on the bed, most of his clothing removed. He was pronounced dead the morning after at a nearby hospital. A cause of death hasn't yet been released. The video showing Brooks's final moments is prompting sadness and outrage, including from his family. As viewers can see, Mr. Brooks was fatally, violently beaten by a group of officers whose job was to keep him safe. He deserved to live, and everyone else living in Marcy Correctional Facility deserves to know they do not have to live in fear of violence at the hands of prison staff. New York's Governor Kathy Hochul also ordered an investigation and said she was horrified by the video. She wants 14 people linked to the incident to be fired. The investigations could determine if any charges are laid against the officers.
The Attorney General is correct, absolutely, to investigate this case and potentially as a murder, if not, criminally negligent homicide or manslaughter.
The union representing corrections officers says what's shown on the video is incomprehensible. And while they will fulfill their obligations to represent their members, they say they don't endorse the actions shown on tape. Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Washington.
It was looking a lot like Christmas in Revelstoke earlier today with heavy snow falling. I'll have your full forecast coming up next.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting those in need.
Thank you for making the season kind with CBC.
This province does incredible things on this day.
Even though our day of special programming in support of local food banks across BC is over, you can still give. To learn how you can donate, head to cbc.ca/kindbc.
All right, let's take a look now at our full forecast. Let's begin with a quick peek at the current temperatures around the province. -16 in Fort St. John, a little snowier in Williams Lake and Prince George with a -3 in Prince George. Similar temperatures in Williams Lake overnight. On the island, a lot of rain for Tofino and Victoria with a low of 6 overnight and heading into tomorrow. Dease Lake is going to see a -7 with a mix of snow. And Fort St. John, a -11. Over in Kamloops, 1 is your high for tomorrow with a mix of sun and clouds. 0 in Kelowna, but again with that sun and clouds, similar conditions in Whistler. And on the island, Tofino, 7 is your high for tomorrow with some scattered showers. A little bit rainier in Victoria with a high of 8 for tomorrow. And heading into Metro Vancouver's 5-day forecast, rain is sticking around for us and a high of 7 for Sunday. And that looks pretty similar for the remainder of the week. That is your late news for Saturday, December 28th. Thanks so much for watching. For news on the go at any hour, you can always head to our website at cbc.ca/bc. We'll see you tomorrow.